I'd like to call the regular council meeting slated for March the 3rd, 2026 to order. There are no public hearings scheduled for this evening. Any additions or deletions to the agenda from administration?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, no additions or deletions from administration.
Thank you. Anything from council? For a motion to accept the agenda as circulated. Thank you, Councillor Butcher. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Nobody in the gallery today, no delegations or presentations. 8.1, the regular council meeting minutes of February the 17th. Councillor Cosmo.
Minutes of February 17th be adopted and circulated.
Thank you. Errors or omissions, deletions from council? Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. And then we've got 8.2, the Committee of the Whole minutes from February 24th. Councillor Olson.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from the COW meeting on February 24th as presented.
Thank you. Errors or omissions?
On 8.3, there's no mover of that motion.
8.3.
Yeah. MWAP grant.
It's the only thing.
That's Councillor Smith.
Okay. Would you be prepared to amend it with the name of
Motion,
Councillor
yeah.
Smith? Okay. Thank you for picking that up, Councillor Spicer. I missed that completely.
Me too.
Further discussion? Any errors or omissions? Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried as well. Thank you. Any business arising out of the minutes or unfinished business from administration?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, at the committee of the whole meeting, there was a question about where the leak was in the roof of the Hamilton Place. And I did confirm that it was right outside the offices. It was in the office area of community service.
It's easier to fix.
Yep. Much easier fix, correct.
Okay. Thank you. Anything from council on minutes? Okay. Nothing under bylaws. New business 11.1. CRA account. Ms. Tingley, I believe this is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So this is more of a housekeeping item. Currently, our authorized representatives are Larry Davidson and Diane Paismeni. So looking for a motion to remove them and add myself as the authorized representative. And from there, I can add Ken as well. The reason for adding myself initially is I already have access to the account. I just don't have the level of authorization required to make any changes to our account. And as you know, it's a pretty slow process with the CRA, and my fear is if we add Ken's name instead of mine, I will have my access revoked, and then I will be on hold during what is a very busy time for the CRA. So this is kind of like our easiest way to facilitate that. This will allow me to make changes like adding Ken and including like adding bank account changes, because right now when we had the bank account compromised in 2023, we reverted back to receiving physical checks for our GST refunds. So it'd be nice to just go back to EFTs to not be held hostage by the postal strike. And that concludes my RFD.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just make a couple comments on that. So Ms. Tingley and I did have a discussion on this, because I do believe that in the CAO bylaw, it gives me enough authorization to put myself there. The difficulty with that, as we talked about, was CRA will only let people do it, not positions.
Yep.
And so the easy way to fix this on an ongoing basis is to have the CAO on file, because it's always going to be contained in the CAO bylaw. However, rules are what rules are, and they're not going to allow us to do that. So this is the fix that I think is most appropriate.
Councillor Spicer, your name?
Move that council approves the authorization of Allegra Tingley as the new primary officer for the CRA My Business account and remove Larry Davison and Diane Passimony as any other individual currently registered for access.
Thank you. Discussion by council. My only concern was, I hope there's not a bunch more like this. It might be healthy if we were to set up some sort of a checklist to, if we change a bank or if we change an employee or something like that, we have a check sheet to say with this position, we have to do these things and what have you, because, and I'm not slating administration, I'm sorry, but Mr. Davison hasn't been here for 4 years, and Ms. Paismeni hasn't been here for 3, so there's got to be other things. That's my only concern.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of councils, I think it's an absolutely fair point, because I know that it's not just CRA. We have a number of different accounts with different government departments, transportation, economic corridors, Alberta Environment, et cetera, and there's different people on each of those accounts. You know, as an example, Alberta Environment, he's putting me on that account. I don't know what I'm looking at. Chris does, though.
Yeah.
Right, and so, I think it's a fair point that, you know, tracking that in some way is something that we should probably be more diligent on. For sure.
Absolutely.
And I know in my previous life, and I believe Councillor Olson will attest to this too, that it wasn't uncommon for somebody 3 or 4 positions behind you to still be on an account or still signing technically on something, and somebody else has come along and nobody caught that. So that's all I'm getting at.
On the other side of that, we do have some accounts where we've notified government departments multiple times that this person no longer works here, and
Still doesn't get done.
well, and the way we do our accounts right now, because that account gets closed, because it's in a person's name, it's not just on a title. Sometimes we're not getting emails from, because those lists aren't updated properly. So we've had some issues on that side of the ledger as well. So,
Yeah, I still get correspondence from addressing me for names I do not recognize because they haven't updated their systems and I've contacted everyone within the organization to try and get them to update it. So, and the CRA can be incredibly frustrating to make changes, but it's something I've always had access to since I started, but it's just not user friendly on our side of things. So we have to send this physical letter to them and wait several months for changes to happen.
as an example, Mr. Mayor, I got an email about a month ago to Mr. Davidson, but in my email address. So like, they changed the email address, but the mail merge they did still had the CEO as, right, and so there's, but I mean, again, point taken.
I believe Councillor Smith and I had probably 3 years with a local bank, because I continually got his information emails sent to me, addressed to him. So, you know, it's not unheard of, but it's the sort of proactive thing that we can work on ourselves to make sure we're protected as best we can. So, hence my question. Anything else from council? A motion to put Ms. Tingley, the primary officer for the CRA My Business account. Not seeing any other hands, I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. Assessment Review Board. I believe there's one small typo correction in the motion, but I'll leave this up to you, Mr. Van Buel.
Yes, it's not December 2024, it's December 31st, 2026, I believe, on the proposed motion. So, Mr. Mayor, this is a housekeeping item that we have to do on an annual basis. We used to do this with the organizational meeting, but the timing really doesn't match with the assessment review board. So what we have to do on an annual basis is appoint individuals that get added to the board or taken away from the board. So the proposed motion should be move that council appoint the following individuals as members of the local assessment review board and composite assessment review board for a term ending December 31st, 2026. And the two people are Cheryl Exley and Dennis Meyer. Again, this is a housekeeping item. It's required under the Municipal Government Act. On February 26th, Gerald Moran was appointed the clerk, and he provided correspondence listing certified panelists for the ARB. And again, just appointing those two people so that we have a full board for any assessment reviews that come through. Now, knock on wood, we haven't used this board, quite frankly, I think since I've been here. But it is one of those things that when you need it fast, and the training is not insignificant, I guess is the best word. It does take a bit to get trained on the board, and we do it on a regional basis because there isn't that many on the region, and it's the same training for everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
I'll make a motion that council appoint the following individuals as members of the Local Assessment Review Board and Composite Assessment Review Board for a term ending December 31st, 2026. And the names are Cheryl Exley and Dennis Meyer.
Any discussion by council? Mr. Van Buell says it's something we see every year. Not seeing anything, I'll call that question. All in favor? No opposition, so that's carried. Any reports? I started there last time. Councillor Spicer?
Do we have to do anything with the Scrats?
Nothing.
I believe Grassic was,
An email.
It was included in the motion.
sorry?
I think it was all
It was
included.
included in the last assessment.
Yeah, it was information pertinent to the motion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we've already appointed the rest of the board then?
Yep. Right. Councillor Spicer, anything for reports? Deputy Mayor Brown?
No, nothing at this time.
Councillor Butcher?
Actually, I do have something. Today I went to my first coffee with the cops. And the discussion that came up and the queries and the way we're collaborating is just amazing. And that's all I have to report.
Councillor Smith?
Doesn't report.
Councillor Cosby?
Nothing at this time, Your Worship.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
My report will actually be better given in the written format, but I just wanted to update council. I was on the Edmonton Salutes virtual committee meeting last Friday, and there was some really interesting information with respect to the changes our military components are going through at the base here in Edmonton. The number of officers that are going to be stationed in various sections and what have you. The key part to that was the military is now talking about, or they've changed from geographical divisions for their members into components. So they're looking at what the trades actually do and what the different parts of the military do. And it was really a very good meeting. I think it was one of the best Edmonton Salutes meetings I've been to for quite some time. So look forward to that written report. Yeah. I'll look for a motion to accept the reports as presented.
I'll make that motion, Your Worship.
Councillor Butcher, thank you. Discussion? Call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. Correspondence and information items. We have an invitation from Sturgeon County every year Sturgeon County recognizes long-term service awards. Last year, we had a contingent attend. I believe there was 4 or 5 of us last year. The single biggest thing last year was the 40-year award for the CAO of Legal. He's been with the fire department for 40 years and received a 40-year award. So most of these awards center around training, development, and not necessarily heroism as defined. But every one of these awards is important, and I think if anybody is able to attend, please mark your calendars for Thursday, September 17th, 7 p.m. at the Protective Services Headquarters, which is just south of the little fire truck on the side of the road on Highway 37 between Highway 2 and Highway 28. And please let Trina Benisaki, the Chief of Staff at Sturgeon, know of your attendance. It's certainly a good evening in my opinion.
We're supposed to let her know by March 6th,
I know.
according to this.
Friday.
That's why I say, let her know September.
Yeah, you can just let, sorry, Miranda know. That lady over there, my apologies. Let Miranda know and she'll send in a list for everyone. To let council know, I will not be able to attend this year. I hope, plan right now is to be in Kitimat, knee-deep in a river fishing.
Nice.
I'll attend, Miranda.
So just squeezing around the table quickly, we've got Councillor Olson, Councillor Smith, myself, Councillor Spicer.
This
and
is for the
Councillor
awards?
Butcher. Yeah, it's the evening, so lock it into your calendars, it's available, and like I say, I think it's a good evening,
I'll go too.
and I shouldn't have been so bold and forward as to throw forward my opinion. I should ask Ms. Tingley what her opinion is of that awards night, because she's been there for a couple of those in succession on the opposite end of it, and we do appreciate the service you provide through the fire service too. So. 13.2, correspondence with action. So the first one is we have some correspondence from Mr. Moody. This is relation to a residence, it's identified as the south end of 64th Street. I believe all of council is familiar with it. He has identified continued downturn in the safety of the building itself, and what he observed during a windstorm. I believe this was just towards the end of January, so discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Spicer.
Not so much about this property. I showed Ken an article here from the city of Edmonton. They've had 470 properties demolished following their introduction of, they call it the Problem Property Initiative. And 263 of those have been redeveloped or are in the permitting process. So I was just suggesting that's something to look at and see what they're doing to get that done.
And I believe last year, if I'm not mistaken, we had a conversation with respect to our ability to levy a different tax rate on derelict or dangerous properties.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, and I'm gonna go right off the top of my head here. So we have the ability to set different assessment classes for res and non-res residential properties. Certainly, we have more leeway in the residential properties. You know, there's I won't say unlimited, but virtually unlimited, like, there's no set amount, in the Municipal Government Act. However, in our non-res, there is certain, you can only have so many classes, and we are maxed out in the non-res right now, because we do have a vacant property, assessment. I think, you know, outside of the assessments, we can certainly do that. One of the, and we've talked about this, but for the new counselors, you know, as an example, we took action on a property downtown, not last year, the year before. And we, you know, after the fire, you know, we deemed it dangerous, and we actually took it down. We got our court order, you know, everything by the book. So now that, bottom line is, will we or will we not get our dollars back, right? It was about a $60,000 touch for us. And until property taxes are paid on it, that's how it ends up going on property taxes, and that's how we recoup. I think, just as an aside to that, there was a question back January about our increase in non-paid taxes. And one of the issues is that's one of the properties that has, right? And so there's the taxes plus the $60,000 hit that then hits our arrears, basically, on the taxes. Not to say we can't. It's just the risk for us as a community is, if you demolish, if you take that down, then what happens? Like, how do you collect those dollars, right? And there's no guarantee that you will.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
What's our ability on the bylaw side of this property being dangerous and this metal coming flying off? What, and not necessarily being secure anymore, because
Well, and I think that's the real issue, right? Is getting any kind of dangerous property ready, right? And going through that. I will say that in the past, we've had different orders put on that particular property, whether it be to cut grass, whatever. And the landowner generally complies. Now, what we found out, I forget where we had this, there was a gentleman who came into council, and they went, well, yeah, he complies because
neighbors do it.
the neighbors do it.
That's
And we're
right.
going, well, that kind of doesn't help us, right? Because once you write the order, if you comply, it doesn't matter who complied, the property's compliant now. And we had a nice discussion with that, and
It was the next door neighbor who was selling his property.
yeah, and we did have a discussion after the council meeting. I know Garnet and our bylaw officer did, he said, like, don't do that, right? And we gotta go through the process. So there are some abilities for us to do that. But again, at what point, I think it's a discussion that I think this council should have again at some point in time, to say, you know, how are we gonna do this? And is there a fund we wanna set up? Is there some, you know, something that we wanna do so that we have the ability to deal with those? Or do we just take them on a as we come basis?
Councillor Smith, stand up here.
Thank you. I know that we run the risk of being stuck again.
Yep.
Is it fair to our residents to allow it to be up? I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's one of us here that hasn't heard about it a dozen times.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
We just, like, I know there's a whole process in that, but can't we have administration or bylaw contact them, say, hey, somebody saw your roof starting to rip off. You need to do something about it, whether it's official or not. Just, hey, like, if none of the neighbors call him up and tell him his roof is coming off, he has no clue that it's coming off.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't know how often he checks his property, or if he does. I
Once or twice a year, maybe.
He's out complying.
I was just gonna mention that this complaint is the first I've heard of a structural defect within the property. I've heard of lots of, the grass isn't cut, the paint's falling off, the inside is full of mold, all those kind of things. But this is the first time I've heard of a structural defect in the property. And I don't disagree with Mr. Moody, other than the fact that in a windstorm, something coming off of anyone's house could cause damage and therefore be a liability. But, and just because the house is empty doesn't add or take away from that dynamic. But I think from council's perspective, we should be making sure if we do know of those people who are going in and cutting the grass and looking after things because they don't like it, we should tell them it kind of handcuffs us and to back off a little bit and let us try our best. And then at the same time have the discussion, as Councillor Spicer has said, with the landowner saying, hey, just so you know, this one came to us and it looks like things are getting really out of hand. What's your plan? Where are you going with it? That sort of thing.
2 years ago, when the fence blew over, it was that same neighbor who went and made it safe again, stood it up and propped it up.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's a decrepit building.
and there's no doubt in my mind that we're gonna get more of this down the road.
I think here's the bottom line. If council would like us to get reasonably aggressive, and I'll use the term reasonably aggressive, I would never recommend that we do a demolition on a building before getting the court order.
100%.
And the court order by itself will cost us some dollars. But honestly, with this property, I think it might be time. It's had a notice on the door that it's uninhabitable for how many years now? 5?
Yeah, but the owner can move into it.
Yeah. But again,
Longer than that. I moved
here's
to-
my opinion right now. I think we have enough of a history to be able to get a court order to say, okay, you've got, X amount of days, whatever that is, to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And part of that might be make it habitable, right? And that would be the push to go, okay, if you're not gonna make it habitable, if you're not going to do that. And I would work with our legal on how we do that, and then just go, now's the time.
My other question is, have we sought partnership with Public Health to see what they can do to?
We have not, at this point in time, and, I think Councillor Spicer's comment about the City of Edmonton's program, I know they bring in a number of different authorities, and they work collaboratively, and it's health, and it's the sheriffs, and,
Probably engineers and everything else.
well, yeah, and a lot of those properties are, they have a history with, Edmonton Police Service or sheriffs or drugs and gang units, that kind of thing, and that, excuse me, add in public health, and that's how they make their case, and that's how their bylaw. I don't know exactly the steps they have to take, it would certainly be worth doing some work on. And the other part is, I don't know how much financial resources they require to do that outside of, all the, I'm not sure how they do the financial piece of actually tearing it down or getting it rehabilitated or how they do that. So that would be the piece that I'd have to find out from the city of Edmonton.
Councillor Spicer, do you know if that unit has a basement? So we had a situation downtown where it's slab on grade and it cost us considerable amount of money. I can only imagine filling in a hole is gonna be any cheaper, that's for sure.
Sewer, water, everything comes in below grade there, so.
I mean, without doing some work on it, I don't even know if I'd wanna put a number on it off the top of my head, because I have, quite frankly, no clue until I see what we'd have to do as far as removing sewer lines, capping. You know, do we go back to CCs? How do we deal with all that, right?
Would council be comfortable with a motion to direct administration to examine some options and report back at a future meeting?
I would add something to that, and just that somebody contacts and says, you need to make this safe, or reasonably safe, because your roof is starting to come off. And if some of that sheet metal comes off, it's not gonna be safe whatsoever. I would add something like that, and say, hey, your property's coming up as being, I don't know.
Can we split that into two motions? Would you be comfortable with that? One for direction for information back to council, and the other for direction to move forward with notifying the owner of damage?
Yeah.
Just on a second comment Dwayne made, I don't know if we want to limit it to that. And all he's got to do is come out and put a screw in and put it in place. We've got to have more teeth.
Well, I'm just thinking for the present to get it, like, so that some metal doesn't come flying off. You've seen the winds the last few days here, but I agree that it's part of, I think that's part of the first motion is, okay, this is what's going to happen, and we got to come up with a plan and say, okay, you've got to do all this stuff. I just don't think I think it's just letting the second motion is just about letting them know that there's another issue, and we can maybe even be part of that conversation is, you know.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor,
go ahead.
so I'm getting my spidey senses up here about going into a closed session if we're gonna talk any more details, because we might have already kind of skirted that line. But if you wanna put the motion on the floor right now, I'm good with that, but if we go much further, we're gonna be in some gray area around talking about specific property, right?
Okay. Right. In that case, I'll look for a motion from council to direct administration to report back to us with options at a future meeting.
I would make that motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call that question. All in favor? That's carried. And Councillor Spicer?
I would, in regards to this particular letter, I would make a motion that we contact the landowner and let him know of the circumstances that his property is in.
Fair enough? Give you enough direction? Okay. Discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, council. It's certainly not an easy thing to work around, that's for sure. 13.2.2, we have correspondence with respect to speeding vehicles. And also a response 53A Avenue, which is our long straightaway on the west side of town in the residential core. Indications are that there's some speeding going on. In my response, I'd indicated that I would ask Mr. Van Buell to talk with our detachment commander with respect to speed enforcement, and also recommend that there be some discussion at our infrastructure policy committee with respect to his request of changing the bylaw, or changing the speed limit in town. There's an awful lot of things that go into that discussion. It's not just how fast the speed signs are, But I think it would be important for us to have that discussion, especially at the committee meeting, and then bring that back to council. Councillor Smith, you were in this chair when we had a request from a young gentleman, and I'm thinking he was 14 years old or 15 years old, asking council to talk about a 40-kilometer speed limit at that time. And there were no other municipalities that had that at the time, if my memory serves me correct. But now you look around and we've got many municipalities that have looked at a reduced speed zone. I don't think just changing the speed limit is the answer to the question, but there's an awful lot of discussion that could be had around the terminology I want to use is speed calming devices and traffic calming devices and those kind of things. So I'm just wondering what council would like to deal with respect to this. Councillor Brown?
I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think reducing the speed limit solves the issue. I think enforcement's the way to start. And I think, you know, I've lived in small towns all my life, and this is an issue in every little municipality in Canada, let alone ours. And I wouldn't be against traffic calming devices there either. But I think if they're going to speed, they're going to speed. It doesn't matter if it's 40 or 60 or 20. Right? Do it. I don't think that it crosses their mind that they're putting people in danger or themselves in danger. So.
Councillor Olson?
Thank you. Unless we had some electronic means of determining if these people were speeding or not, a lot of people cannot predict or visually say that car's doing 50, or that car's doing 50 looks a lot faster than you think it is, especially on a small community road. Because it may look like he's doing 90 when he's doing 50. You know, so I mean, there's that we have to take into consideration as well. As far as the traffic calming devices, everybody along that street, I think would be up in arms. We get complaints over little potholes. Now you're gonna put speed bumps in? No, but
I didn't say speed bump.
that's a traffic calming device, right? Once you're gonna put walking robot kids across the street to slow you down, but.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, I don't disagree with you, Councillor Olson. I just think there's, you know, in my travels around the province, there's some communities that do some pretty, I think, innovative things around traffic calming. And it's about, you know, at crosswalks, at intersections, you don't put speed bumps, but what you do is you put ball bumps. So you actually extend the sidewalk further into the
Like we
street.
did on 49th.
Right, and you do things like that in residential areas. Now, as I say that, one of our public works people is listening to this and going, no.
Exactly.
No, don't do that, right? Because they come,
Reading.
you know, in the wintertime, it becomes, you know, quite frankly, a nightmare, and you will hit them and you will damage them, and that, you know, when you get.
And blades.
Yeah, so, again, there are a number of different things that happen around, you know, traffic calming. You know, if you, in the larger centers, and we don't have the dollars for this, one of the traffic calming devices of preference right now is roundabouts, right? Because there's no lights. And when you design them into residential areas, when they're built, you get the big S, and you know, it's virtually impossible to do them at 50. You know, 30 feels like you're going really fast through them. So, no, I'm not suggesting that we go spend, because a roundabout, I mean, if what we were doing at, or what we were proposing to do was 960,000. I can't imagine a roundabout's less than 400. You know, and so we have some limitations on what we can do, but I agree with Councillor Olson. Speed bumps would not be what I would be talking about. But there are some different things that you can do. And sometimes it's just bringing that awareness that, hey, you're going too fast. The light, you know, the speed sign on 38. Guilty as charged. I've hit that more than once doing, you know, 70 or 75 and go, ooh, hang on. You know, I'm at that part of the community where that's not cool.
That might be an option of putting in a speed sign there that shows them how fast they're going. You see that? I think actually you're right. That would probably have more effect than anything.
One of the other possibilities, and speaking out of turn totally crosses the line with this, but I do know that the Citizens on Patrol have a speed watch program, and maybe funding into that speed watch program could result in a few times a month where a couple of the COP members could sit out with one of those speed devices that Councillor Olson's talking about, and all it is a sign that says, this is how fast you're going, and it might have an effect because it could go to anywhere in town. It's not stuck on a post at one specific location, so there could be some other support mechanisms that could help.
So, Mr. Mayor, my last comment on this, and when you brought this to me, not my fear, but the last thing I'd want to see is you reduce speed limits in the community to 40. I don't think anything frustrates our residents more than putting in a new bylaw, and then not enforcing. And our ability to directly enforce speeds is very limited, you know, very limited with the RCMP. Now, what I can tell you is, I think for the last 6 months, my monthly meetings with Sergeant Dehan have been, are you back up to staff so that we can get some more visibility out there? And, you know, Coffee with a Cop today, when we talked about priorities, from my perspective, that's one of the priorities, is getting our RCMP visible in the community. Because I think that has a longer effect than just a drive around, right? Like turning those red and blues on, from my perspective, is one of the big things that tells your community that not only are we here, but we're active. And if the RCMP can't provide that level of service to enforce a 40-kilometer-an-hour speed limit, the next thing that, you know, the next logical step is a peace officer status instead of bylaw officer status. And we've talked in the past, that's not a cheap option, right? That is a very pricey option. And it would cost in excess of $100,000 in first year to do that.
Closer to a quarter.
Well, over time, I mean, because there's a lot of things that you don't have to do right away, but the vehicle and lights and marking and training and all that stuff is immediate, and it's not going to come in at less than 100,000.
Licensing,
So, yeah, and then your wages go up.
That's where I was at, a quarter.
Anyway, that's my concern with just lowering the speed limit. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying, like, it's limited in its value if you can't enforce it, and you can't directly impact that enforcement.
Councillor Olson.
previously, I know Sarge can't do anything about it, but the last traffic division sergeant, he was the one out here most of the time sitting on 49th tagging people for seatbelts and non-stopping and stuff like that. So, but that was his prerogative, I mean, what,
And, you know, I'm gonna give Nathan and his crew some real good props here. They were at full staff over the summer and into the fall. And I saw them fairly regularly out, you know, Main Street, 38, in those areas. And, you know, I'm confident that if we had some other areas, like when they're doing those, they don't care where they go. And if we have some priority areas, you know, I think we have a good enough working relationship with the RCMP that we would have some influence on where we could, you know, where they would go. The issue is having, you know, there's hard, and we heard it today at Coffee with a Cop. They talked about hard vacancies and soft vacancies. Hard vacancies are the ones where people have transferred out. Those ones, I think the RCMP are getting better at moving people in quicker than they have in the past. The issue still remains in soft vacancies when you know, members are on leave for whatever reason, whether that be, you know, medical leaves or whatever, right? Those are the harder ones for them to fill. And as we heard today at Coffee with a Cop, they're okay right now, but they do know they have some soft leaves coming up. And so it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be a challenge for them. And the RCMP are working on some new programs so that they have more relief officers available to bring into communities when they have these soft leaves. So, knock on wood, hopefully, you know, they can sort that out. But I do know that traffic is a priority for them. I talk to Nathan and Dylan on a monthly basis, and whenever they can, they try. But other circumstances sometimes get in their way.
I can tell you from past experience, a reduced speed limit, AKA school zones, is a prime example. The only thing that does is make the ticket more expensive because the driver doesn't slow down because the zone is different. The driver's still traveling the same speed, but the penalty goes up because the speed limit has gone down. So, but there's lots of discussion to be had. What would council feel comfortable with as far as action for this letter? Sending it through to the committee or leaving it with administration? What would the brothers be? Go ahead, Councilor.
just keeping it as information for now. There's really no quick fix key thing that we can do because their budget's already been passed.
Did you make that as a motion or? was
I'll
that-
make a motion, we accept it as information.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was a comment or a motion, so, okay. So the motion on the table is to accept as information. Further discussion by council? Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? Opposition? And that's carried.
Motion to adjourn.
I didn't quite hear that, Councillor.
Motion to adjourn, yours.
Thank you. I'll call that question. All in favor? Thank you, everybody.
Just before